touch hundreds of thousands of people every single day.
What's at stake if we get this wrong?
I feel like a lot of people can become desensitized to the fact that like money's a long game.
I'm not gonna be like the poor leader. I have to lead by example.
The starving artist.
No, I don't wanna do that.
I have to force myself to stop going back and reverting myself to that version of me.
My ability to earn money and not feel bad about it as an entrepreneur.
Oh my God.
If I'm making 6 figures, I can't bring all 8 of my siblings and my mom and dad out the hood with me with 6 figures.
And not in New York City.
No.
I know who I can help with that money. I know how many families and problems I can fix with that money. And so that's why I'm charging what I'm worth plus tax. Food is a universal language. When we eat together
And drink together, we learn together.
and there are few topics more important to learn
And more taboo
than money.
So join us as we travel around the country, supporting small businesses,
Enjoying delicious food
having amazing drinks, and
and
putting money
on the table.
Quite the greeting.
What can I get you? Let's taste the rainbow, shall we? All right.
Oh my God. Ladies. I'm so happy y'all can meet us here. One of the reasons we wanted to talk to you three specifically is because Corona was a hot mess.
Hot mess.
And I think it's been very clear that like women in particular suffered. Women of color in particular suffered even harder. But we've heard a lot about what do they call it? She session?
Yeah.
It's like branded now.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about the bright side of that, which is new studies have come out that women's financial philosophies have changed because of Corona and because of COVID and the pandemic. And now not only are we more willing to talk to each other about money, but we're also looking for advice in new places. So we are less likely to lean into traditional financial advisors and banks and institutions, and we're learning from each other. And since you all have predominantly or largely female women identifying audiences, I wanted to talk about like what we've learned from our people and what we're doing to show up for them.
I always aspired to be a businesswoman, but I did not know that that was going to materialize into ice cream. And so my husband and I both have entrepreneurial parents, but we didn't go to school for it or, expect that either one of us, would be together. We're a very unexpected couple. And that we would be working together and that we would be selling ice cream in our neighborhood. Like none of that was ever thought of 12 years ago.
It's natural for us to want to learn from people that identify the way we identify because we identify with them and we relate with them.
And I think that's the new bar. Like I think part of the reason why financial institutions and traditional financial advisors are struggling is because the new bar for people is that you don't need to just know some shit. I need you to know exactly what I see, what I experience. When you tell me to go get that raise, it looks different for women of color, for the LGBTQ community. It looks very different going in and asking for more than it might if you are, as my girl Berna says, very male and very pale.
It's nuanced, and I think that's the thing that the bigger, these institutions are missing that we are picking up is that it's a very nuanced approach. It's not just like anyone can do this. The article I came out recently in the New York Times where I was like, oh, is this gonna feel like it's contradictory? Because I made the statement that financial independence can be impossible. For most people it is, and I do believe that, but it is possible for some. And what happens is a conversation for a lot of the people who are in the space, because they don't have the nuanced approaches or experiences that we do as people of color, Black people. They kind of gloss over and don't remember or tap into the communities that have different starting points. And so I feel like by just saying that though, get someone to put their defenses down and like, okay, she's being realistic. So I can maybe listen to this, you know, and learn about it. So.
But there's like a lack of empathy, whereas with these like newer like niche banks, it's more like community focused. So like you said, like deeply embedded, like this is a bank for Black people and Latinx, like Latinx, like that's it. Like this is our target, this is what we're going for, this is for us, by us, like type deal. And that's what I can kind of appreciate. A lot more of these like newer fintech companies that are coming out are like coming into this space with a very specific community in mind that you know is deeply embedded with them.
But it has to be that way because there's so many things that are different. Like I always remember this one time where I was watching a video and the guy who was presenting information was saying like they looked at data and they saw that 529 accounts across the U.S. were largely opened by white Americans, and that white Americans versus Latinx Americans, when Latinx people are investing in a 529, first of all, they do it less often, and when they do it, they put less money in compared to their white counterparts. And I'm like, so he's just gonna present that and not say what like there are a couple reasons as to why, because then you got, you know, some people that I know watching that and be like, you see, they don't even put enough, they don't put that much, they're not trying hard. No, why do we succeed? Because we do these things. It's like no. Like the context matters so much, and like there's so many things. Of course, we, you know, when we think about like feminism, right? It's so intersectional, right? I feel like we're at this movement where you kind of named it that finance is becoming intersectional because we have to talk about how, like for example, my family, as a Latinx family with immigrant parents, we have a part of our budget every month that most people don't even know this term exists, but it's for remittances, which is sending money back to the Dominican Republic to the family members that we have there. So if you don't have the immigrant experience, you don't even know the word remittances, and it's not even in your budget. So how can you tell me that I'm not putting enough in a 529 account where I'm not just trying to save for my child's college, I'm sending money back to previous generations and cousins and aunties and uncles, and you may not be dealing with that.
And now, but now there's banks like fintechs coming into, even though it's still like hard to like create anything in this space because of all the regulatory requirements that are specifically for immigrants.
Like that problem.
Finally recognizing that there are enough people who have these unique needs, and the standard playbook of functionality and benefits and all that stuff is not serving them.
We went to DC, which is where I was raised, between 5 and 17. And we were having lunch with friends, and we were in a food hall, and we had ice cream that was small batch, you know, thoughtful product after lunch. And then we were walking to the car, and we're like, we can't do this at home. Like, we can't go out and have a lunch and then get a nice like little bite, like sweet treat, you know? So that's literally walking to the car is what planted this seed. And then on the drive back to my mom's house, I was like, well, this is what we should do.
I want to transition a little bit because just between the three of you, like you touch hundreds of thousands of people every single day. You talk to people.
That's a here, right in this room.
Right here.
A reach of like 1 million.
That's true. Across multiple platforms, multiple areas of interest, expertise, etc. But I want to focus a little bit just on y'all three. Over the years, as you've been helping all of these people, what have you learned about yourself as you continue to help improve the lives of other people?
The one that I will say is just my ability to earn money and not feel bad about it as an entrepreneur, because here I am, I said this to myself, like here I am telling my audience to go ask for what they deserve,
The rate is
you
the
know, negotiate their salary, earn money, and I'm like, if I can, whatever it is, sell product or service or leverage my audience, right, to make money, then I'm gonna be here like poor or like not being able to feed my family, and then I'm telling y'all how to be rich. So y'all writing me like, oh, thank you, I just made $1 million. I'm just like, oh, so I am still working on it, by the way. It's a step into, like, it's you deserve to earn money for the time that you put in, that you're putting in, for the expertise, for just the gems, for the free content, everything, even if it's not free. So I think for me, it's just confronting that I am not going to be like the poor leader. I have to lead by example.
The starving artist.
No, I don't want to do that. So it's just like, no, you guys are going to have, like, you're going to have to pay me.
Or have to martyr yourself.
No, I don't want to be that martyr. So I am stepping into that more.
But you know what's so funny? I feel that I resonate with that so much because when I first started, I was like, everything's always gonna be free. I'm never charging anybody for anything.
Yeah.
Because when I was broke, I would never have been able to pay. Girl, you've heard me say.
Yes.
And I really felt like that. And until recently, I've been like, what is wrong with me? Like that doesn't even follow the preachings of what I'm saying, which is to really build your own self financially. Yeah. But I realized that when you were talking, it hit me that that's been modeled for me. Because my mom, her entire life, she has been this very crafty woman, right? And her mother, same. My grandmother was a seamstress. She sewed for everybody in the community back in DR, and my mom learned to sew as well. But when I was growing up, my mom could have had an entire business sewing for people. She sewed my Easter dresses, all of our dresses. She sewed prom dresses. Everybody's prom dress.
But for free, right?
Everybody's prom. No, but here's the thing. A prom dress will run you a couple $100s. My mom would charge $35, $40, $50. She'll be like, just buy the materials, bring it to me, and I'll make it. And she would spend hours and hours like this, and at night like this, because prom is tomorrow, and she didn't finish. And then I'm waking up like looking at her, and I'm like, I hope she making money off it. No.
I see a lot of judgment from other people in the space around this topic a lot. And I'm just like, oh, okay, so you are like making people feel bad for earning money from spending the time and expertise. And I get that there are like scammers that you don't want your people to go to, but a majority of us aren't that. And I see the judgment, and it's like really snarky comments that I'll see on Twitter or certain places. I'm like, ooh, like, and so
I haven't charged you for like most of even on my platform. It's like I only get sponsorships. Like I'm not charging you all for anything. Like this is I'm doing this on top of my full-time job. You know, like and I like doing this, but I think like. To y'all's point and where like my journey has been at with like my audience and like coming into that self-actualization and being confident and showing up for my audience, saying, hey, like, first of all, I studied finance. Like that's my degree. I've worked on Wall Street. I've done all of the things. I feel confident talking about money, and I guess like coming into that voice and showing up for my audience in a way that I am way more empathetic now. I was already empathetic, but like I'm learning that through my audience. Like everybody has their problems. Everybody has the shit that they're dealing with, the baggage that they're coming with. And even though I feel like I've had it pretty tough, and it's not as tough as other folks' stories, but like I'm being way more empathetic to your point of like it's probably not a reality for everybody.
Yeah.
And but I'm gonna be empathetic towards that, and in my messaging, I know that it's possible for some. It may not be possible for everybody, but it doesn't stop me from trying to help you to try, whatever that may look like.
Yeah, there are benefits just being on the journey. Like just acknowledging that it is possible and that like you don't have to get caught up. And you know, we struggle with that sometimes, at least I do for sure, where you feel like in some ways you may have contributed to the glamorization of it.
Like the headlines. That's what people click on and like.
But for the record, we don't write them.
I don't write those headlines.
You know what I mean? We got to peel back the curtain on some of this stuff too.
There was one that was like,
people don't know.
There was one that was like from poverty to deep riches. I was like, what? I hate that that's associated with me. Like I didn't write that.
It's the same with us where they're like, oh, here's the way to close the racial wealth gap. Pursue financial independence. And it's like, well, no. It was never meant to be. It was never meant to fix
because
the
they know
systemic
people
problem.
are gonna click on that because they're like, ooh, juicy words. I want to see what proposal for closing the wealth gap they had. Boom, boom, boom. And, but you know, your story about like coming back and feeling that tightness, it made me think about walking into the house that I grew up in, which my parents still live in today in Brooklyn, and I go in there and I definitely feel like a different version of me was in that house. So it's almost like when I go, it's like this process. I enter the door and it's like a little bit, it's like a like, okay, it's happening. By the time I get in the door, I'm like, oh no, hold on, daddy, mommy. And it's like, I go back to the person that I was. I have to force myself to stop going back and reverting myself to that version of me, because that version of me was rooted in a lot of like the cultural norms of communities of color, which is this collectivist approach of we are one, the community. I make money, I give all y'all money. I come out the hood, we all come out the hood. And the reality is, if I'm making 6 figures, I can't bring all 8 of my siblings and my mom and dad out the hood with me with 6 figures. Like I can't. So they
not in New York City.
but they think I'm rich.
Right.
You make six figures, and it's like, do you understand that after taxes, I'm like barely, like I can help y'all, but I can't save y'all. Like, it's so hard because we don't want to talk about this because it hurts and it's painful. It's painful. It's so painful because they might not understand, because if I'm making $30,000, $40,000, and you're making $100,000 plus, I don't care about the pain or the trauma or the things that you're saying are difficult about it. You make 3 to 4 times as much as me, and that we can't ignore that math, and that's true, and that is true.
I was traveling a lot for work, like within the 5 boroughs. Like I just had 3-hour commute, like on the train, and that started to take a toll. I was like, this is not how I want to be living. And because when we opened the first location, there was like a line for 4 hours, like the moment we opened, and we sold out of all the ice cream. The reserves too. We were like, oh, people are into this, because we weren't sure.
I want to switch it back up and go back to this new era of financial advice via content creators. And I think for me, one of the things that's missing in the space is accountability. Today, anybody can pick up a phone, go on Clubhouse, go on TikTok, go on Instagram, go on Twitter, and be an expert. What's at stake if we get this wrong? The listeners, readers, consumers of our content, if we don't have a passion for it or a way to hold people accountable or just like a support system to keep us going. Because at the same time, we're on our journey too. Like none of us are at the top of the mountain. Like, hey y'all, come up here. We're all climbing with them. We might be a few steps ahead, but we're all climbing with them. And so like, I'm curious on your thoughts.
Oh, that's a good one, because it is important and dangerous, because I see it all the time. I mean, I know we all do, where you're like, ooh, like very definitive statements, very to get people riled up and to, be divisive.
It's like, well, what are we talking
Right,
about?
or just, so I think it's important to model, right? So people are coming up and watching us. It's so wild, because, a couple years ago, I felt like I was the newbie and I didn't know anyone, and now I feel like there's people looking at me like, oh my gosh, like me? So
You don't feel like there's people there are people looking at you.
And I'm like, wow. And so I think it's to model that, right? To show that you can show up and be yourself, be vulnerable, say you don't know something, so that the newer, people, they see it's another way to do it. You don't have to be the know-it-all. You don't have to be the person that's making these statements that are trying to rile people up.
No, I think that's, and I like that, just because like I feel like what is dangerous is these statements that make it seem like this instant success. We're already a generation of instant everything, instant oatmeal, instant gratification. We want it instantly. Everybody wants it instantly, and I think that that's what's tough with, because I get content creators all the time. It's like, well, I've been at this for 3 months and I don't have, 1,000 followers yet. And I'm like, I mean, you've been at it for 3 months. We've been collectively, years. And not saying that you necessarily have to do that, because there's viral sensations. Great. But I think always reminding folks that it's a journey. It takes a while. And I feel like a lot of people can become desensitized to the fact that like money's a long game, and everyone wants to do forex, and everyone wants to do the options, and and nothing is wrong with that.
But that's a different game,
right? That's
That's
level.
when it gets like we want those instant results. So I'm gonna follow these people that are coming up with these instant solutions, and it's like you will instantly lose your money.
Be ready to
Okay. It's fast.
Quick.
We were in Tulsa talking to Kevin, and I used a sports reference that it was like, everybody wants to be a home run hitter, you know what I mean? But the reality is like, just get up there and bunt. Like keep it simple every single day. If it's effective and it works and it's consistent and it's easy, like do that, you know what I mean? But there's just a lot of hype beasting. And that's a great segue to a question that I wanted to ask about the hype beasts out there. And I'm not trying to start on the internet beat, but
some of them are my friends.
But like,
No shade.
I want to get your thoughts on whether or not a lot of what we're seeing that we're referring to as hype beasts, like, do you think it's motivational or is it like self-centered? Because there's a lot of like, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like, and it's a fine line, at least in my perspective. But I do feel like, and I will put you know, what they call it, a line in the sand or a toe in, I don't know. I feel like
A pinky.
A pinky in the what? That's something different.
I am willing to say I do think that we're at an extreme point right now where there's just a lot of it that I don't think is coming, or at least for me, it doesn't feel like it's coming from a genuine place of trying to motivate people. And I'm wondering, like, do you feel that way? Agree, disagree? Like, what are your thoughts?
So one of the things that in the beginning I connected with so many of you. You guys are amazing, and there's so many other amazing people creating content. Yeah. And I started to follow, and you know, you follow each other, you support each other, you put each other on if there's opportunities. Yeah. But most recently, I've been like muting and just like not unfollowing necessarily unless it's really just annoying. But like I've just been trying to get I put my blinders on because it becomes an echo chamber. Yes. And just because like, you know, we're in it doesn't mean other people, your audience is not in it the way we are. Yeah. So I felt like I've been able to become more like original and just authentic because I'm like, I'm not paying attention to like what other people are doing. I try not to. Right. It's like, I might not like your stuff, but I'm supporting you, you know? And it's not because I don't, most of the time I just don't see it because I'm not looking anymore. Exactly. Because I need to stay focused. So that's,
and that's tough because I think there's also a little bit of pressure to want to be a supporter of everybody's work. Yes. But respectfully, I can't read, listen to, I can't. If that's all we're doing all day, then we're not, first of all, living our own lives, and we're not focused on our own objectives.
You're not creating content.
You know what I mean? So I see it as an exercise in trust. It's like, yo, they're in their lane, and I always use like, you know, superhero and superheroine, you know, references. I'm like, we're the Avengers. Yeah. They're over there slaying villains. You slay the villains that you can slay, and we're all sort of working towards this collective thing. But
well, it's an interesting space because I think in finance, more so than maybe like beauty or some of these other verticals, your personal brand and your business are a lot of times like commingled. Right. Yeah. And so some of the content may be serving to the ego of the personal brand, but you forget about like an audience that is there to get something from you versus like the other way around where in beauty, the product is always the star. And here it's very like, sometimes it's about me and what I accomplished, and other times it's about like what I teach and how people have benefited from that. I guess it goes back to what you think social media is for.
Yeah. But I will say, so I'll play devil's advocate with my own answer. Because it is sometimes those clickbaits and those headlines that ultimately get people to fall into the idea, whether the person is, you know, 60, 70% about themselves. Yeah. Like, but it's those, even those content creators that I'm thinking of, like in my head, it's just, it does allow them to bring in more people that are achieving ultimately the goal of which we are collectively trying to work towards.
That is true.
So I would say it's like a double-edged sword in a sense that sometimes it's a little annoying, but it's great because it brings more people in, regardless if it's through you, through anybody, like anyone sitting at this table, or right.
I just want us to use another carrot besides earnings and income. Right. You know what I'm saying? Use ice cream. Impact. Use impact. No. Use happy children. Vacations. Yeah. Your vacation was more motivational to me than an income statement.
Thank you. Like freeing up your time to spend with your family motivates me more than you showing off that $1 million net worth. Like I care more about the life you're creating and the impact that you're having, not just on yourself and people and what you're doing, because that's ultimately why every single one of us here wants more money, so we can do more of those good things that we wish we could do more of now.
And to go back to what we were saying before, like that is such an important point because I think that's what helps a lot of us overcome the hesitancy of earning more or charging more. Because it's not such a self-centered thing. It's like, actually, I know what I would do with that money. I know who I can help with that money. I know how many families and problems I can fix with that money. And so that's why I'm charging what I'm worth plus tax. You know what I mean? Because like, I know what I'm gonna do with that, and that money has a purpose, or it has the ability to serve a purpose. So you've always had like these types of flavors, and from day one, the Harlem community embraced that.
Yes. We have expectations that are often not real about our own community, sometimes Black communities specifically. Like, we understand what good things are. We like to enjoy good things. So why exactly would they? I was like, but okay, that's fine. And I'm glad that we've dispelled that it's an actual viable business, right? So anyway, so here we are. Now it's 4 years into July.
All right, so speaking of people taking more advice from friends and family and online content creators and influencers, whether you like that word or not. I think we've all kind of made the decision, whether consciously or unconsciously, not to become credentialed. You could become a true financial advisor. You can get, I don't even know all the acronyms and like alphabet soup, CFP, CT, not CTE, that's football. CPA. I'm curious why you are choosing not to get credentialed, or why you've chosen not to up to this point.
Yeah, I feel like for me, if I come into, so my work primarily is in education. Like everybody that watches me knows I used to be a teacher and then I transitioned to nonprofit financial education. So when I walk into a classroom, they've already heard from the banker, the CFP, the CPA, the tax attorney. They done heard from all of them. They want me to come in with my jeans and my t-shirt. Like I sit on the desk and I'm like, all right, ask me anything. But then a couple things happen depending on what route I take. If I wanted to be a financial advisor, for example, and specifically talking about investing, sometimes your clientele is now limited to people over a certain amount of net worth. Now I can't even help my family. Now I can't even take my community members as clients because they don't make enough money. Like, I'm sorry, look. I can help so many people by putting the content out there, by doing this thing, and I don't need that to have the impact that I'm trying to have. If I felt I needed it, absolutely I would go get it. But I think I have been doing just fine without it.
No, I say for myself, so in the beginning when I first started, I did feel like I needed like a little something behind my name. And so I remember I got the CFEI, so everyone usually gets that. It's, it's not that hard to get, honestly. But when you put it behind the name, it's honestly not that hard to get. But honestly, so when I first started getting press, I could tell that the people who were used to quote me and still quote me for things, like they'd be like, so what's your day? So they did care about that. So I would say that. But what I'm realizing is that most people, like my people who listen, like they do not care about that, because I'm also honest that I'm not an expert in this. I will bring on experts to talk about this. Do your own research. Don't just like take what I'm saying. Like, so I feel like as long as I stay on that lane and not necessarily pin myself as the expert that knows everything, then I am being true to helping people, but not from like a fake place of knowing it all.
No, I like that. And I feel like even just with the experts, there's plenty of experts that
don't know what they're talking about.
And behind closed doors, even like that's what I always say. I was working on Wall Street. I have a finance degree. I got most of these things. I have some letters, not as it relates to like financial planning, behind my name, and I understand it. But I was drowning behind closed doors. Y'all know my credit score was not good. Like, you know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of those people. There's a lot of advisors. I think there's a statistic out there where financial advisors, like 20% don't even invest like their own money. Like I might be lying, but there is a statistic out there that says something like that.
Somewhere.
Like I'm just throwing it somewhere.
Have a little sliding, like don't believe anything she says. Disclaimer: don't listen to comments.
We could not find any support for that statement.
0 and 100. But no, like somewhere in there. No, but like for me personally, credentials, I think they are important, maybe to an extent for certain things. But as long as you're keeping it 100, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't know all the things. This is only information. You got to put the whole disclaimer down at the bottom. Then you're good. Entertainment purposes only. They do not like invest at your own risk. All that stuff. I think that it's important, but lived experiences are so much more important. It is just like, and being able to share that. Like I love finance. I wanted to go all the way through all the things. I wanted to get my degree in finance and do quantitative finance and then do financial engineering. Like I wanted to do all of the things. Just all of the academic things.
But then TikTok.
And then YouTube University. And I was like, I don't need to know all this stuff. Like
I just need to know how to edit from my phone.
I was gonna go to school, but like then TikTok.
These big financial companies and services, they're watching us because they're seeing how we do have the connection to our audience and the trust. And they don't have that, and they want that. So you'll notice, like, I feel like the market is picking up for people like becoming spokespersons and working on projects for these bigger firms because they see it's not the stuffy. See, if you need like a real person being able to talk in the language. And being relatable, that's what's going to get you to connect with your target customer or audience person.